wanted to write about this notion of who it is. Like for me, I'm first generation. My mom didn't become a citizen until I was 3. My stepdad became a citizen when she did, and my real dad had left us. So I wanted to talk about language. Like, what does it mean if you speak one language at home, but you're also speaking English? What does it mean when you translate for your parents? I can't see you, so it's hard, but maybe some of you have to do that. But what does it mean to speak American, right? Like, my mom learned to speak English from Vin Scully Dodger broadcasts. She was so determined when she was 19 that she wanted to sound like an American. And that didn't mean speaking English, perfect English, did it? It meant speaking the way that we talk to each other. So in this section, Johnny Frias, my character, is a highway patrolman. He's a California highway patrolman, and he's driving in the Santa Ana winds. And I would say that last night, being buffeted about by the wind in the Santa Susana Pass, I just kept thinking I was going to see you guys today. I was hoping. This morning even, the wind is something that I was thinking about. So I'm going to read you from the very beginning of the book. So in this section, Johnny Frias, my character, is a highway patrolman. He's a California highway patrolman, and he's driving in the Santa Ana winds. The wind started up at 3 a.m., the same way it had for hundreds of years. The same way I used to hear the blowing so hard around our little house in the canyon that the loose windowsills sounded like harmonicas. The old metal weather stripping played like the gods pressed their mouths around the screens in the living room where I slept when I was growing up. Waking up to hear Rose Sotelo's radio next door playing ranchero music, tubas and trumpets thumping against the stucco, her canaries worried in their little songs. But now that I was back on shift, the Harley was pushing hard against the biggest gusts, the Santa Ana winds blowing crazier than ever, the way they did in the afternoons, like they were fierce from the nap. But the fall winds always made me think of my mother, holding me tight in the old redwood chair my father had tied to the porch railing up in Fuego Canyon, while the Santa Anas blew in the black night when they always started. My first memory, my mother talking to me before dawn, the gusts so strong it felt like our little house would go rolling down the canyon like a tumbleweed. Almost 20 years on the job, and I never stopped thinking of my motorcycle like a horse. I was shifting the bike to change lanes, and it was like my father taught me on my first horse when I was 8. Let Mono feel where you want him to go. You have to love him that much, and he has to love you. So he moves, and you didn't even open your mouth. I was 39 years old now. I saw my father almost every day, and every day he still laughed at me.
So I've been following Susan Sprague and her books for many years. Some people, follow rock stars and get all excited to go to concerts. I go to book readings and meet authors and get them to sign my books. It's very exciting.
Any of you who are writers out here, we love writing like the lyrical description of how the chain link fence looked with the dewdrops on it, right? But dialogue goes so much more quickly. That's why we love movies, isn't it? You love movies or streaming shows with good dialogue. So just like the way that I remember listening to people. And then also our neighborhood had a lot of Black people whose parents had been born in the South and they had come from the military and settled in Riverside. So my father-in-law was from Oklahoma, spoke very differently than my mother-in-law who was from Mississippi. So like when you think about how all the languages sort of evolved, we were just so lucky to be kids at that time when everyone sat around and told stories. If you're going to write good dialogue, it's a matter of listening to how people speak. I think we write dialogue because we want people to know someone. And the best way to know someone is to know how they speak. Right? It seems to me that what I think is the most important is to write about your home. To write about your everyday. So again, even though it was dark last night when I was on my way to you, I remember how beautiful the Santa Susana Pass is.
But you also address the really significant issues of racism, prejudice, and this idea that the people in your book are Americans. They were often born in America and have multiple generations.
One of my biggest deals was, what does it mean to speak American? It's like my students who had come from other countries did not want me to teach them from an English literature book. Like, Ms. Straight, what is this word gonna? And I was like, what? I was like, guns? And they were like, no, we're gonna go to the store. It's like, oh, okay. So we're gonna go to the store. And then I realized I had to write a whole grammar book, a whole American book for them, because they wanted to know all of the things that we said as Americans that didn't sound like English, right? So now, if I were to look at that book now, it would be a completely different book because you all, who are students, are basically much younger, and you have a whole new generation of speaking. And if you think about it, for my mom, it was a different time growing up. Now I love the way that we're blending all the languages. And the reason I say this to you is it's the everyday stories that are the best, aren't they? Like it's the stories that someone tells you in line at the grocery store, or the stories that someone talks about at the park. For me, it's my front porch. The thing about being any kind of artist that's creative is to make sure you get to take a couple of hours for yourself. Let's say you're in marketing. Let's say you want to go to medical school. Let's say you want to be a vet. Let's say you want to be an elementary school teacher. Isn't storytelling at the heart of what you're going to do anyway? It absolutely is. So I think this whole idea of what it means to be us is still rooted in home. Don't you?